This is Contestants Not Appearing on Stage, a weekly game show podcast for game show enthusiasts. Episode number 3, Requiring Censorship. Recorded October 16th, 2015. Welcome to another episode of Contestants Not Appearing on Stage. Aiming so ardently to be a weekly podcast for game show fans, I am Torgo. Joining me, we have these fine people, my co-hosts. Identify yourselves.
I'm Jordan, Unique Perspective, and I'm probably one of the 10 people in America not rooting for the Cubs this series.
I'm Jason, the price is J, and I am worth approximately $105,000.
I'm Randy. The price is K. Punch 91. And I have no idea what to say right now. I did not plan that out.
Neither did I.
I'm Nick, and I'm insert another word for here.
I thought this was a family show.
It's
That
a
was supposed to be.
good
That was
primer
supposed
for
to
what's coming up.
Ooh, a family show, you say? Are we feuding like a family?
Perhaps we will.
Real
And
shortly.
yeah, a little bit. First thing on the docket is obviously Big Money Week 4 just ended with The Price is Right. We've seen all 5 episodes. Some of the things that we talked about last week, they happened. Some of them didn't. We can just run through each of the days and any surprises that we had. They jumbled up the episodes a little bit, so for the sake of clarity, I'm just going to go in order based on how they aired, because that's the one that most everybody's going to be familiar with. So we start with Monday's show. We had a couple surprises. $100,000 shell game being the focal point of Big Money Week. Only $50,000 of that was won, unfortunately, but that kind of makes sense. We actually called that. I think Jordan was the one that called that, about how they would offer half of it and then the other half would be the bonus. So,
I don't remember, but let's just assume I did.
all right.
It might have been me. I don't know.
We had some other fun stuff. Vendo price for a car in its second appearance on the show. Danger price coming out of nowhere. Pretty solid winnings. But Monday's show also brings up a couple issues that some people had. The first one being, how do we feel about them just absolutely injecting cash and monetary value in everything throughout the show? If you won your pricing game, you also won an additional $5,000 irrespective of what you actually won. If you spun $1 and then another $1 on the wheel, you got $50,000 bonus instead of $25,000 bonus. Every item up for bids was over like $1,500, reaching as high as $4,700 and change.
I was just going to say, I disagree with the money in the pricing game because it just felt awkward. You won $100,000 in your game, but you also won it, so that means we're going to throw in another $5,000. So even though we said the top prize is $100,000, you won $105,000. I thought it just was very awkward.
For me, it was like, imagine how awkward it is when they used to give away the $1,000 bonus in Clock Game, and just stretch it out across the entire week of shows.
It's like you already won both things, and here's a little bit of spending money on the side to get you back to the airport.
I don't think the 1,000 in Clock Game was awkward until it came to the point of the bonus prize. When they started offering the bonus prize.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think getting rid of the 1,000 was a good idea, personally.
I think the thing for Big Money Week for me is that I would have felt okay with it if it didn't feel like that it was like bumping it up towards this $4 million amount or whatever they claimed they were offering. Because it felt like they were doing that just for the sake of bumping it up to $4 million or the most money ever offered. And if you ever saw Million Second Quiz, it kind of reminds me of how they basically bumped up the winner's money just so he became the biggest winner. It kind of felt like that for me for Big Money Week.
Of course they did. It's sweeps. I mean, this was when Big Dream Car Week was less time last year.
I didn't think October was sweeps week, though. I thought November is sweeps week.
It depends. There's not like one designated mark your calendar. It's sweeps week at every television station across the country.
I feel like it might be different for daytime, but I'm not entirely sure.
I didn't mind the showcases. I mean, we had a couple that kind of got up there. I think only one of them might have cracked 50,000, but other than that, we definitely had like mid to high $20,000 showcases. So I think the reason that they injected all the money is a primary complaint that we had last year, which was all of the focus of the show went to one game. And I feel like they tried to make it fairer to everybody who had a chance to come on stage, like, oh, you didn't have a chance to win this particular amount of money, but we're still going to offer a whole bunch of stuff since you got up on stage. It may not be the big money game, but it's going to be maybe sweetening the pot a little bit.
I think they just wanted to give people more reason to watch than just the big money game, because then once game 3 is over, everybody's just going to tune out until the showcases. So
Wouldn't they feel marginally gypped from, ooh, someone can get 100,000 here, just take this little 5,000 and run away? Like, I'm not sure if it works from the point of view of in the studio. And the reason why I perhaps have an issue with that is because I think price is best when it works both in the studio and watching at home.
I mean, I think some people were probably in the studio genuinely excited. I mean, yeah, you didn't win the big money, but I mean, you at least got money to pay the taxes on whatever prize you did win. So
What I didn't understand was just, I guess, how I guess they wanted as random the money in the showcase itself. Like, how did they decide, okay, we're going to make it 5,000 or 3,500? I just thought it was kind of
Arbitrary?
weird. Yeah, like, and then the one time I think it was just 1,000, which I was like, that seems kind of like cheap, I guess, compared to the other showcases.
But,
just just because.
the fact that this is the 4th big money week, I mean, clearly they know what they're doing. I liked that they changed it up a little bit and kind of increased the stakes for every game a little bit more. I did feel that as a week, it worked better than previous big money weeks where, like I said, the focus was primarily on one game. And I'm sure the contestants are going to complain about having that much more available to them. But I guess what we should do is talk about each of the big money games. Some of them we've seen before, some of them we haven't. Did they work? Obviously, start with Monday. What do we think about $100,000 shell game?
For
Eh,
the stakes, I find that it was maybe even a little too easy for even 50.
I feel that shell game is too easy of a game to offer that large of a prize. I mean, that's why I'm sure that's probably why they didn't play shell game for a car for like almost 3 years or 4 years. They didn't play it for a car because it was a little too easy for a car.
The odds are in your favor that you may not get 4 out of 4 small prizes priced correctly, but odds are in your favor that you're probably going to get 1.
I think it was too easy for 50,000, but I think it was just kind of like the 100,000 they could make impossible to get, because versus some of the other big money games, because it was like, even if you got it, then you only have a 25% shot. And then they can also, I don't remember the small prizes, they can make the small prizes as hard as they want. They have to make just one impossible, and then the 100,000 is out automatically.
Would you have preferred if it was for, say, $10,000 or $20,000, and then if they were able to pick the shell correctly out of the 4, then they received the other $80,000 or $90,000 rather than just doubling it?
I mean, I think the base amount for that to work would still have to be decent enough where it doesn't feel like just another cash game. Like, I would have, if that would work, I would want to have it at least be 25K and then 75K for the bonus.
Yeah.
I agree with that, but I think that kind of then changes the rule where they were going off of the normal bonus is double what you win, whereas this kind of would have felt awkward, I think, to do it that way.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Make no mistakes, we'll get to this later on in the week. They have no problem with changing the rules in some games to make them work for Big Money Week.
Isn't that the truth? That was Shell Game. We move on to Tuesday's show, and the big money was $250,000 Punch-a-Bunch. Now, we've seen this before. The distribution was a little bit different this time, as we touched upon last week. I mean, it's $250,000 Punch-a-Bunch, except they did not show us where it was.
Very disappointed in that.
I'm wondering if you'd been in the studio, if Drew would have figured out where it was, asked, or punched something, or
punch all 50 holes and find it through trial and error.
Hey, that's what he does with Money Game. He checks them all. I mean,
there's a big difference between having 9 squares to pick from and having 50 holes to punch.
Hey, Drew needs to be healthy. He needs to keep his workout going.
Yeah, but he shouldn't stress himself too much, or else he'll break 5 more bones this year.
Hey, I'd like it if they went through on the Wheel of Fortune when they look for the $1 million envelope. They just start peeling off. Nope, there's 33 in that one.
There's 33 in that one. 33 in this one. Oh, look, a car. And now here's 33.
That would be hilarious.
I think in general, I like Punch-a-Bunch for the appeal of a big money game, just for the idea. The actual process of it sometimes can feel a little bit off, especially with this distribution and then not revealing. But I always think the potential is there. It just, for some reason, hasn't landed like quite right.
I don't like that the top prize was $250,000 in 1 out of 50 holes, and then the next highest amount was $10,000. That seems, I don't know, because that's no different than the next show. I mean, it's 2% chance that you're going to punch it, and that's with one. Obviously, the odds are a little bit more in your favor as you gave more punches, and they set up those small prizes very fairly to make sure that they got 4 punches, even though they only got 3.
I guess the question comes down to where was the money? Was the money in an easy spot,
Like in
versus
the middle.
versus that left row that I think nobody ever punches. Like if it was over there, they are safe. They know the $250,000 isn't going to get hit because I think there was one of those on the left side. Nobody's ever punched that hole.
Right, and I think isn't that similar to that location, which is where the 250,000 was last year?
I thought the 250,000 last time we saw it was like in an actual normal spot, like 3-9 or 4-9 or something like that. I thought it was a fair spot the last time we'd seen it.
The only thing that I liked about Punch a Bunch in particular is that they actually had the gigantic $250,000 prop bill. I thought that was a nice touch. They didn't have to do that.
I looked at that. I was like, that bill larger than normal? That thing was huge.
It was gigantic.
It's a $250,000 bill. It can't be cheap.
This is true. Moving on to Wednesday's show, the big event was $100,000 Grand Game. Again, another one that we've seen. It was won last year, not won this time. I don't know. $100,000 Grand Game doesn't do anything for me. And I don't remember who said it before. I think it might have been you, JJ, referring to another game. But giving up $10,000 for the potential to get $100,000, that doesn't seem that special because Pay the Rent does that every single time. So to dress it up as if it's this one-time special event when it's just kind of mimicking what another one of the games already does, I don't know if I like that very much.
I thought the setup was slightly difficult for this game.
They made it easy last year, but it was not easy this time.
I think like 90% of us picked the wings, which were wrong, I think, or avoided the wings or something like that.
It's because they were TGI Fridays wings. First of all, I thought that they were trying to drop the TGI from their brand name, so they might be an old product, but that's another story. Yeah. Second of all, when you go to those kinds of restaurants, have you been to like a Fridays lately? They've just like doubled in price in the past 2 or 3 years, and all these places have. So I think that seeing a name brand restaurant, a nationwide chain, I think that to the average person, they would think, not so much how much is it in the store, but how much would it be to order wings when you are out at the restaurant. Moving on to Thursday, $1 Million Plinko.
Oh, boy.
Stop doing this.
I don't know, am I the only one that kind of likes the idea? Like, it stinks because every time they do a special with Plinko, nothing goes in the middle, but they're trying. Like, it's all coming down to luck, but they're trying.
Plinko having its reputation, it's obviously something that they have to do. I don't know if $1 million I mean, they can say we're trying to give away $1 million in a pricing game, but no one's ever gotten $50,000 in the pricing game. So I don't know if that should be a justified claim. I guess a question would be, do we like the way that they have it now with each center drop being $200,000, or when they had it way back when they had the nighttime $1 million spectacular specials where you had to drop it in the middle 3 times and then you got the golden chip, which was worth $1 million if it hit the center?
This is such a small finite space to get a result in. I hate that it's so easy for someone to break the all-time winnings record in one chip drop. But I would like it maybe if they did it like you only had to drop it in the center slot once to get the $1 million Plinko chip, and then do the $1 million Plinko chip. I like that.
That makes sense.
I feel like I'm in the minority of kind of like our group of fans, but I tend to not like, as a viewer, the idea of steps to get money. It makes it kind of feel like a Ponzi scheme or a pyramid scheme. I like the idea of just, if you're going to offer money, here's how you do it. One step. What I would have done maybe is upped the stuff on the side. So maybe it's like $5,000, $1,000, $500, something like that. So it feels like you're still winning more than usual on Plinko, even if we have the bad luck that we've been having with. I
agree with that because I don't understand why they raise Punch-a-Bunches like minimums, but don't raise Plinkos.
That's a good point, actually. Plinko remained the same, and that's why she won $2,100.
Like, that's a pretty
good enough for a double
drop.
to me. I take it.
Actually, speaking of Thursday's show, I liked what they did with Cover Up, having the faces of the people and the various dollars. I didn't like that we had to look it up to determine who some of them were.
Yeah, I was disappointed that it wasn't mentioned, and they didn't even really zoom in on it like they usually do. So that made
It
it
might have just been
more
pressed
difficult.
for time.
It's possible.
I would have liked it if Drew had been like, oh yeah, this is the guy in the 10,000, because I feel like people are at home.
The average American does not know what Sam Anthony Chase looks like.
No one knows. They just know that his last name is on their bank card, and that's it. That's all they know.
Actually, mentioning going back to grocery game, I mean, do we have an opinion on the guy just going for it in the product? Like, you know,
I don't blame him one bit, because gum is cheap, and he probably thought it was like $1 or $1.10.
Well, it was Chef Boyardee.
Chef Boyardee. Why do I always do that? But still,
But
Chef Boyardee
is
is
cheap. Yes, it is
so
cheap.
no, I can't fault him one bit for trying to do that. He probably did the math in his head, and he's just off by a couple cents.
Yeah, if he did one less, he would have had it. So
yeah, so I don't have a problem with him doing it there.
The only reason we don't like it is because it didn't work. If he had said 14, we would have been like, that guy's a genius.
Mm-hmm.
The thing with that strategy is that it's very dependent on you knowing one product very well. If you don't, then it's probably not worth it to go for it.
This is true. I mean, I can't really blame him, because the problem with actually taking 3 or 4 or all 5 products in grocery game is you might end up stuck. If you use 4 and you haven't reached $20 yet, you might not even have the chance to win at that point, because it might be a value of like a grocery product that's either too much, or the way the denominations work, you can't get a multiples and hit that $1 range.
all right, you're 4 cents away, and you have this gold bond left. You think how many do you want?
Exactly.
I'd like to buy one squirt of Gold Bond.
This is no criticism of Drew either, but one of the ways he does explain it is by, using one of the products. He does mention you can use just one, and some people take that to heart. So
Yeah. I like to buy the gold bond, and then I'd like to sell it, and then buy it at the resale clearance rack value. And then moving to today's show, Fridays, we were surprised because 2 games offered cash, which no one saw Safecrackers for cash coming at all.
That was a very nice surprise.
Not only is Safecrackers first, which for you people that aren't huge Price is Right fans, Safecrackers is not one of those games that likes to appear as the first game on a show. But then they open the safe and there's $10,000 sitting inside. I feel like it had to be first, because if you were to offer a $10,000 prize after you already offer a big money prize, it seems like a letdown. So yeah, leading off with $10,000 is a nice idea. And then we had Let 'em Roll for $100,000, and the very, very eagle-eyed viewers on fan sites were able to determine that this was going to happen, because when they had the Decades Week of The Price is Right, they had like those behind-the-scenes clips, and one of them was like showing the showcase podia and like the one-bid consoles and stuff like that. And someone noticed idly in the background some Let 'em Roll dice with some inflated amounts on them. So the way it ended up working is there was just no car. It was $100,000, and you had to roll 5 of the yellow side, which was dollar signs in this case, and you got $100,000. If you didn't, the other sides said
it was 2,500, 5,000, and 10,000.
Yeah, so you had the potential risk of, well, you haven't won the game yet, but you have $40,000 showing.
What do you want to do?
Do you want to risk that?
That makes a very interesting dynamic, and usually
no, it's not interesting. Nobody would do that.
Well, I would.
I think what's interesting about it's like, because of the inflation, it's like, how much is enough? Would you gamble 10,000? Would you gamble 25,000? That's what's interesting.
But something you have to consider also is it's not like 1 out of the 6 sides on each die have the dollar. 3 of them do. So it's not like, honestly, I think it'd be more impressive if somebody got $50,000 on Let 'em Roll than $100,000, because it's so much less likely to happen. It's like during a regular show. I don't think anybody's ever gotten $7,500 cash on Let 'em Roll. But if you look at the totals, during the week, it was like $4.4 million that they ended up offering as potential winnings for this week on The Price is Right. If you want the exact amount that they actually gave away on the show, as I sit there and just add up the numbers really quick, they actually gave away $757,938 worth of cash and prizes in the past 5 shows of The Price is Right.
That actually is probably a little bit lower than I thought it would have been.
To put that in perspective, the show on Thursday with $1 Million Plinko offered more than double that.
I would have to look through this, but how much is 757,000 more than like how much they give away on a typical week?
Decades week was 402,000. The second week was 513,000, but a lot of that was the Perfect Show and the breast cancer special. And then last week was 310,000. So it seems to be that the pattern emerges that they obviously have no problem giving away more stuff on the specials. And that might be good because, oh, buddy, we have a lot of specials this year, as we kind of touched upon last week.
Yeah, I think they definitely want to, pump up viewership. Pump some viewership, like nice prizes and good winning. So,
but, and this is something I found interesting, if you take the percentage of the potential that's won, you take the total winnings of each show and you divide it by the potential winnings of each show, puts us at about the same, if not a little lower than the average normally is. So while they say that they're offering this much money, and they are, the percentage that's won over the course of a show is lower.
And that's good on Mike or whoever's doing the show, because there you go. You draw the eyeballs in, but you don't end up, I'm sure they were covered for some of it, but you don't end up, blowing the whole thing, blowing your whole budget right there. So
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, it felt like mostly fair too. Like, I think the big money games that were the easiest were typically won, and the hardest ones were typically lost. So was this their intention all along to give away about that much percentage?
Probably. I mean, I'm sure that they go into each show with a set idea of how much they want to give away. They're like, okay, well, this game is going to be set up for a win. They can't set it up for 100%, but they can sway. Because, Lucky 7, there you go. They haven't set that up for a win all season. Because no one wants to watch a show where everybody loses all the time. That's why Legends of the Hidden Temple got canceled in the first place.
But at the
After
same
3
time,
seasons.
if every single game was won, what's the point in watching if you know that, oh, this is so simple, there's no suspense?
Right.
Yeah.
So
it's gonna be a good
think
mix.
that they should have each show set up for like 3 or 4 games won, and I think the budget allows for that.
Yeah, I agree.
How do we feel about what James Corden did on Monday?
Don't like it.
I'm sorry, you mean attention whore that you're talking about?
Granted, I don't like James Corden. I don't like his sense of humor. I don't like his show. I feel like when you're there as a special guest host, clearly meant to have a show, try to be charming a little bit. Like, I feel like his aim was to distract and disrupt the whole regular goings-on of the show in the same kind of vein as, like, Drew from season 37 and 38.
Well, I like James. I think he's fine. I don't mind the Late Late Show under him right now. I just think he was trying way too hard here to be the star of the show. And someone should have told him, hey, there is no real one star of the show. I liked what he was trying to do, but he just did not do it well.
Did we determine if the zipper thing was planned or not?
I have no idea.
I feel like I kind of wonder if it was staged just to make a funny, quotation marks, moment.
I mean, they did have him acting dumb in the showcase, because, what was it? They had him, they say, like, the Big Apple Chicago, so if the gimmick is him being, like, a dumb, ineffective model, then the fly moment could easily have been staged.
Yeah.
James Corden, tweet
Game
us.
shows definitely never, ever stage moments in order to garner ratings. That never happens.
$1 million.
Speaking of which, we're going to talk about Family Feud right now. The current iteration with Steve Harvey. I will preface this by saying that this is never meant to be a slam against Steve Harvey. None of the criticisms really go against Steve Harvey. He brings a great energy to the show. I think that he is a great host. The fact that he's actually had it for 5 years now, and everybody before him is going on 6, and everybody before him, starting with Louis, was only there for 4. Clearly, they like him. The show has had the highest ratings it's had in years. I think. Didn't you say it's like the #1 rated syndicated game show on television right now?
It's like it and Wheel of Fortune are battling back and forth for it. So.
Right. But if you watch the show, or at least watch like clips on YouTube, or tangentially aware of it at that point, you will know that the subject matter of the show has definitely gotten, for lack of a better term, racier in past years. Mostly from the kinds of questions that they are surveying the people on and that they ask the families on the show. To the point where, earlier this week, one of the episodes had to censor out one of the responses that Steve said to throw it up on the board. Like they couldn't even say it on TV. And I guess the debate question is, do we feel the Family Feud has gone too far in trying to keep up with the times and get viewers to watch?
Well, but isn't that at the end of the day the whole point of the show? I mean, if it is battling for number one and has been, maybe on occasion number one, then aren't they doing something right? I disagree with the format, but if they're getting the viewers, then, I mean, you can't really argue.
It's weird that it's obvious that this is what people like, but I'm sure some people said the same thing about Match Game 73 when they started to go into the racier material about how it wasn't like the old Match Game of the 60s and how it wasn't exactly daytime fare, yet Match Game was one of the biggest hits of daytime television in the 70s. So
I agree with that, but also you have to take into consideration a lot of the time Match Game would ask a pointed question, and then the definitive answer was they would try intentionally to avoid that answer. They would have to come up with something else. The whole joke would be that nobody would be saying the dirty answer that was implied.
Yeah, and that was where all the comedy came from, because since standards were different back then, you had to be kind of circuitous as to what you actually meant. The home audience would know what you meant, but you couldn't actually say it. Since you were just alluding to it, it's okay. Feud has dropped all pretense about all that kind of stuff, and the stuff that they actually offer as the acceptable answers up on the board, I would say that they, in a way, have gotten lewd.
No, I think they've gone too far with the actual answers they put on the board. Like I agree. I'm one of the people
I don't have a problem with people giving lewd answers if you're actually there playing and that's what you say to Steve. That's fine, but not when that's actually what's up on the board.
I don't mind the turn in subject matter. Like I know some of us disagree. I don't mind the turn in subject matter, but I think the board answers, they need to cut out the slang and things like that. It's just, some of them are terms no one's ever heard of. It's like they went on Urban Dictionary and found a random term and said, all right, let's put it on the board. So
but another thing I've noticed is that they kind of drop all that once fast money hits. That becomes more serious when the money is truly on the line. Mm-hmm. So to me, that seems like they're clearly just doing that for entertainment value. But is that fair to the families playing?
But if they're both on even footing, then, I mean, they can't really say that, it's unfair to our team, because it's going to be unfair to the other team as well.
I mean, as long as they're going to accept obvious other iterations of that answer and not ask for, for JJ, if they're not going to ask for someone to actually say that, I think it's okay there. And I think they keep Fast Money serious because they know that Fast Money is a good enough standalone bonus round on its own. They don't have to add things to it.
Even then, though, I don't know if Fast Money has always been immune to this, because like even some of like the big Fast Money moments, like name a body part that gets bigger when it's 16. Again,
that's what started it all. That Fast Money, that's what started all of this lewdness. The dropping of the pretense was that Fast Money moment. But
even then, there's like little things, like there was a question like, name somewhere where a doctor might stick a little flashlight. Both contestants said butt. Name a body part that starts with T. The guy said T. Even in the bonus round, it's still somewhat of...
somewhat, but it's definitely not as much as the first 3 or 4 rounds.
I think they need to work on some of the obscure, random questions that you can't even think of an answer for. That I have trouble at home. The contestants do.
I have trouble at home too with those. I hate those kind of questions. Like it's a terrible question.
Or else, what they like to do a lot that I kind of get annoyed with is on a scale of 1 to 10, and it's like that's kind of more of a personal question. They say, "How sexy do you feel?" Well, that one I've always said, if you either answer 1, 5, or 10, because how sexy you feel is kind of.
I would want to see pictures of the 100 people that they surveyed.
Yeah,
exactly.
Where did you survey them? Like, California versus Nebraska. I'm not going to say which one is which, but...
Right. And sometimes it's weird. I can't remember, but there was a question, a 1 through 10 question where the number one answer was 7. And I'm like, who's going to say 7? No one's going to say that.
What do they do, average them together?
I have no idea what they did for that one question. That was just... random.
To follow up on the feud stuff, do we feel that the show would be on the path that it is now if they didn't upload clips to YouTube. Because their viral
Sold
marketing has
themselves.
gotten crazy.
They've got the viral marketing, and so I think that helped, especially with the fast money moment. But now, after that, they have just sold themselves to GSN. They're on GSN like 9 hours a day of Family
not just-
Feud.
Not
It's
just
only
GSN,
Harvey
GSN.
Feud, right?
Yeah, it's only Harvey Feud. It's like there's no other feuds.
Not
Except for
just
Karn
GSN.
maybe.
Look, TV Land, BET, a couple
Mhm.
other networks I think all
Yeah.
have it too.
Yep.
So you've got all these cable channels that are rerunning them, plus the first runs. So
Well, no wonder it's number one in syndication when half of the television networks available are airing the thing.
well, supposedly they only count just the first run. So
Well,
supposedly,
okay. Look at something like Jeopardy, where it airs at different times during the day. It all counts.
I don't know. Debbie doesn't have a double run either.
I wonder how significant the YouTube viewing is compared to TV. Like, for example, Nick has a YouTube channel, and his most popular video was the full bonus round of the Peace moment, and it's gotten nearly 2 million views. So I wonder if you take all of the view clips combined, A, how many views that is, and B, from like an online point of view, whether that is a significant more number of views than people watching Feud on like a nightly basis or whatever that may be.
Something I wish that YouTube had done for a long time, and it surprises me that they don't, is provide the number of views and the number of individual IP addresses that are viewing it. Because it could just be, especially with shorter videos like Vine clips and whatnot, it could just be one guy sitting there forcing it
letting
to
it
repeat
play.
on his computer and then going outside. And then again, if you're watching Game Ship clips on YouTube, you're probably not going outside much at all, but that's never
I
mind.
resemble that remark.
And this, I mean this with no affronts to Nick or no disservice to him at all, but when you have a clip with 2 million views on it from a Family Feud episode, I don't think it's 2 million people that are watching that. I think it's, let's say, 100,000 people that have each watched it 20 times.
It's possible. I don't think it is 2 million people. I do think it is a significant amount of people, but I don't think it is actually the actual amount of views you have. So.
But
I mean,
on the other
everyone-
hand, when you share a video online on Facebook or Twitter or anything like that, even if you don't watch the video and don't log another view onto the counter, you still see that something happened. So you're aware of it. And
Yeah.
that's the best part that these game shows have with marketing online, is they get people to be aware of stuff happening on the show, and they don't have to watch the show.
That's
True.
that's a good point. I think what people do, and this is probably why Family Feud comes on numerous times throughout the day on numerous different networks, and I think people find it and they look at it as a way to fill time. 30 minutes here, waiting in the doctor's office or waiting to go somewhere, they'll turn on Family Feud. And I think that helps it.
One of the other things that bugs me is I think, and this is just kind of his routine, is they ask a pointed question and then a contestant will say the answer they're obviously looking for, and then Steve will act shocked, like, oh my gosh, how did you come up with that? And then it's on the board. Steve's reaction is kind of what people are always, on YouTube, or like, LOL, look at Steve, that's the funniest part of the clip. Like,
If people aren't looking to see what the contestants say, they're looking
Yeah.
to see how Steve reacts to it.
Yes.
But even then, some of the more popular moments are the ones where it feels like it's more genuine, like the naked grandma moment, or there was something like he asked the contestant about, like, what was it? Like, name something that's whatever, and then the contestant said Texas. Those moments, it actually feels genuine.
I will never understand that Texas moment.
That's going to
I
about...
think it was
That
name
was a good-
something
that was
a
a-
woman puts
Go
on
ahead.
to make her feel sexy or something. Texas, Steve, Texas.
That was just a great non-sexual moment from Family Feud. I think we have to agree.
I like how we have to specify that was a great moment, but not a sexual one. Don't get the right idea.
This is where Family Feud is gone now.
But even then, probably one of the other big moments was name a word or phrase that begins with the word pork and cue pine.
Yes.
Well, it does.
The fact that they didn't have pork spelled out on the board, that means to me that is perfectly acceptable.
Well, you know what happened? They did have that question a few years ago where they asked for something that begins with the word pot, and a contestant said potato, and Steve ridiculed her horribly, and then potato was on the board, so they accepted potato.
Well, potato also is spelled P-O-T.
Yes, so maybe that's why they didn't accept.
Well, when they ask people the survey questions, is it written or is somebody just standing there with a microphone and be like, just say the first thing that comes to your mind? How
I
do
have to
people take
imagine
these
it's
surveys?
written, but I have no
I
idea.
believe
That's a
it
very
is written.
that should be a behind the scenes clip that they upload. How they get their surveys.
I'm amazed they haven't done that yet.
So-
You know what they probably do? They just ask the crew. They probably have 100 people working on that show.
100 people on the.
Because that's the thing. They don't say that they ask random people on the street. They
Yeah.
ask 100 people. Maybe they ask 100 people in a certain focus group meant to steer the show in a dirtier direction.
That's possible. I mean,
There's a
who knows? They
thought.
might be asking the same 100 people over and over again.
It's like the Nielsen ratings. Hi, your house has been selected to answer these Family Feud survey questions. Please take 3 hours and answer these 5,000 questions so we have enough material for the next 6 years.
I can
And then they only send it to like middle schoolers, parolees, and dirty grandmas.
And naked grandmas.
And naked.
Being naked is not a requirement to fulfill the Family Feud survey.
I can confirm that they did not ask me 100 times.
But you have been selected to do it.
Something else kind of that bugs me is if you look at the points after 2 rounds, if one team has 170 points or something, the next question, the number one, is only going to be like 15 because they don't want that team to reach 300 before the fourth round.
The questions are
But-
definitely not set in stone. They
Yeah.
slide them out based on how a team is doing. Yeah,
And
I
that
know.
kind of bugs me. I think they should just have the same question because then if one team has 70, the other one has 70, then you look, the number one can be up to 30 and 40. But then that question that has like 15 as the number one, all the answers are obscure, like, it's just kind of random guessing.
It's kind of rigging it against the team that's doing well.
Yeah, because and I understand their point. Like they used to have that, I think, on
They have to
Current
fill a
View.
half hour.
Yeah, so they would just have to split up the fast money between 2 commercial breaks, which was awkward, but at the same time, it felt more, real or whatever you want to call it.
That's fair. And I think that's going to about do it for this episode of Contestants Not Appearing on Stage. Do any of you have any final remarks before we take this episode and close it?
We were talking about Matt Jackson a bit last week. He finally lost. 13 games, 411,000.
And the show won't shut up about it.
Nope. On Facebook and everything. And he will be in the Tournament of Champions, which is apparently coming up soon. And I have to imagine that all those people from earlier in the year that won, 8-9 games, I have to imagine that they're now really, really worried going into that Tournament of Champions.
Matt won 13. The next biggest is 7. So there's a big gap between the competition and Matt.
Wow.
It's time to call another Ultimate Tournament Champions. Bring Ken and Jennings back for the 50th time, just to
Ken and Brad.
see
Ken
how
Ken and
Brad-
Brad go against Matt. There we go.
Moderated by Arthur Chu.
Yes.
modeled by Julia Collins.
In her sweaters.
I think Family Feud Sisters show Celebrity Name Game is kind of going in the same direction. I mean, it's not on as often, but I mean, earlier this week they had a category dicks.
Yes, they did. That was the category.
Oh, hey, Nick, I didn't know you were here.
Thank you so much for listening to episode 3, Contestants Not Appearing on Stage. Hopefully we will be back next week, gathering our materials together, getting ready for the I was about to say the Hollywood season, the Halloween season in Hollywood.
Yes, with the Hollywood mural.
Oh my God, that thing.
All right, we're talking about Hollywood Squares next week.
Doesn't matter, the Pope will interrupt it. That's going to do it for Contestants Not Appearing on Stage. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thanks for tuning in to Contestants Not Appearing on Stage, part of the Torgo Entertainment Network. For more episodes of Contestants Not Appearing on Stage, check us out on YouTube or online at CNAOScast.net. All right, we're going to start in 30 seconds.
Okay, I gotta go, baby. Okay, I'll call you back in half an hour. Love you. Bye.
I'm sorry, were we interrupting something?
What? No, I'm just was getting my chocolate milk.
Oh,
Okay.
you were talking to your chocolate milk saying you'd be back in a half hour?
I think the answer is yes.
Okay.
Hey, can we wait 2 seconds? I gotta go get another glass of chocolate milk.
Sure.
Yeah, but, no, I will. No, I better get water as well, just in case I need to hydrate myself.
I already have Kool-Aid.
Of course. Never mind.
Of course, yes. Of
Never
course I
mind.
have
Nope.
Kool-Aid.
Not doing it. Not doing it. You're baiting me. You are baiting me.
JJ, why are you sipping the Kool-Aid?
What flavor is it?
It's cherry.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about the echo. I had to run to the bathroom and I was adjusting my volume and I thought it was the right
I
volume.
didn't. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not where I thought you were going with that. I'm sorry. I just came back from the bathroom and I was adjusting my. We surveyed 100 people. Top 6 answers on the board.
What was Jordan adjusting?
Maybe they'll
Alright.
think it's special because it's a beefy episode with a lot of content.
So beefy.
Top 5 answers on the board. Name something that's beefy.
Why don't we just go ahead and tape next week's while we're here?
Nick, what was that retort during the podcast?
Name something that's beefy. How about whatever Jordan is adjusting right now?
Name something that's beefy, whatever. It's definitely not whatever Taco Bell is selling.
Probably that Halloween Whopper that makes your bowel movements green.
I'm still going to do that. I just haven't.
I was gonna try it today, and then I just kept reading bad reviews, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to experience
It's a
this.
Burger King thing. Are you really expecting it to be like that good?
No, I'm just
No.
expecting it to be a Whopper, which I don't like most fast food burgers anyway.